a scion of many worlds. The sound of the fight starting begins with a shattering crackle and what's kind of like a gong being caved in on itself. If that's not the signal to start, nothing is. They rush up to the grill underneath the haze of the fire girls, warping their presence with the help of the air girls to smooth things out as the water girls slink into the stream with the earth girls. The earth elementals grab the bars and instantly corrosion spreads over them even as the river rises up to cover the bars entirely. Blue-tinged hands encircle the bars of the grate and spin the water so fast that they're eaten clean through with a spread of filthy rust. In moments, all 16 contact points are severed and the entire mess is maneuvered to the side as the water is allowed to drop. There's a boom of wood striking wood from within, and there's a bit of cursing. If that wasn't the gate closing, then I'm an earthany. Let's get moving. Aqua commands her squadron, and they all pile in. In the distance, they can see Squad Dynamic move in as well, and there's some nodding. Guard towers are fully manned, gates closed, and everyone's on alert, looking out. She smiles. This is going to be easy. Squad's hydrodynamic, do you read? Comes in over the radio. We read you, Overwatch. What's the situation? As much stealth as possible, the guards on the wall are unaware of Grapeshot and Fletchette. Any alert will turn all those guards around in a moment. Confirmed. We'll keep the haze screens up, Aqua says as she waves up a fire girl with air support, and they begin weaving another haze screen. We've got a touch of southeasterly wind. We need to reposition ever so slightly, Mist remarks as she helps adjust the massive cannon. On the slopes below, there are several Earth-based girls breaking up the side of the ill to turn it into a slippery slope from hell. There's only one real way up, and all of them can slide down another direction with ease as the enemy comes for the bait. But first, they need to know it's here. How you girls doing down there? She shouts down at the Earth Arumenta as they stomp slowly upwards. Bit tiring, but we already have enough to slow people down for us to escape. Very good, Mist remarks before rolling her shoulders and grinning. Fire! The world erupts into pummeling waves of sound as the cannons blast their rage into the sky. She can just barely make out the distant army turning ever so slightly at the source of the noise, just in time for the balls of death to smash down on them. Some bounce, others shatter and spray shrapnel, ricochets and panic and confusion reign, and the army wisely tries to scatter and not present anywhere near so dense a target. There's even a momentary pause in the champion trying to pummel Jasper, which is rather amusing as she has a giant stone pillar she was about to slam down on his head that is now falling as he bodily tackled her to continue the fight. We have some breakaway Captain Mist. They're trying to be clever and come around the left as we look at the main fight, her lieutenant says, and everyone glances at the tiny formation moving as fast as possible towards their hill with their heads low. We have time for about 2 more volleys. Fire at will, girls, the shock has been given. Time to awe them. Mist commands, and there's a flurry of movement all around her. Blast Squadron, this is Overwatch. Do you read? We read you, Overwatch. What's the sit rep? We need you to aim your cannons a little closer to the rear of the formation. Grapeshot and Fletchette have encountered difficulties and need some time. Copy that. Keep us informed. He sidesteps the gigantic spike of granite that's aimed at his chest and breaks off the tip as it passes by. He then hurls it right in her face, but she doesn't even blink as it shatters against her and is reduced to so much sand as she rushes him. His sword comes down and is shattered against her fist, but he still drives the shards across her face. There is blood. Then the top of her head slams into his face with the force of a train, and he staggers back, tasting his own. He tosses the ruined blade into her face to buy himself a moment. She actually blinks this time, but still has the presence to deflect his thrusting claw. But he turns it into a brutal knee to the gut, and she responds by wrapping around his leg and levering him around to slam into the now spike-covered ground. His own reinforcement means that the spikes shatter like glass thrown against brick, but she has the wisdom to let go and back off before he can gouge into her side with his other foot's claws. A snap of his wings and he's launched off the ground and after her in a moment with a flurry of claw jabs to try and get around her defenses. Her hands are covered in unnaturally solid stone as she deflects his blows and then goes in for another headbutt, something he denies by trying to knee her again. But he catches her leg already ready and she springs off and away. She skids to a stop and is seemingly retaking his measure as she paces to the side, a pace he matches as he looks for some kind of weakness. He's having a very hard time finding one. There's a finger to her lips as she leads her team up the stairwell and onto the wall. Unfortunately, the fact of the battle is that everyone's Arumenta here, so they have to be in different uniforms or they may end up killing their own team by accident, which means disguises and false flags are out. With artillery on the ground, honesty keeps your team alive. Aqua pulls out her knife and walks with rolling feet to move as quietly as possible. When they're this close, the heat haze will give them away too. Too hot, you see. Thankfully, Lady Clarity's blinding light is something they're all actively trying to resist, so the idiots are burning out their retinas and stubbornly looking the wrong way. Her thoughts flicker to her mother and what the lowly street sweeper would think of her little girl sticking a knife into the neck of a professional soldier and dropping her over the side of the wall. It takes about 3 seconds to hit the ground and thankfully not land on either of the squadrons below. Overwatch here. Get to the Emplace Ballistae yesterday. They're starting to take interest in Blast Squadron. Confirmed, Aqua says, and they abandon stealth and rush down the defenders as fast as they can. The looks of panic as bows are turned their way too slowly to do anything gives her a dark thrill. She rushes fast and hard, and in minutes the walls belong to squads Hydro and Dynamic. They then split off and go to give the girls on the emplacements their personal complaints as to the situation. Fucking damn it, who the hell makes a road by lifting the fucking bedrock up to ground level? Jane Cragg growls out as they improvise things by fast digging a trench to either side and piling up the mess onto the immovable road. They could break it down and get it away, but that would take a lot of time, effort, and energy they just can't supply when they're seconds away from an enemy army pouring down on them. Overwatch! How long until we can get inside? Hydro and Dynamic are finishing up with the bitches on the emplacements and heading down. Stand by. Not what she hoped for. Dangling in the wind is the last place you want to be in a fight, especially when weighed down by a ton of equipment and munitions. If some fire bitch throws some heat onto their powder supplies, there's a loud thump and a grinding sound and everyone turns, weapons ready. But it's good news as the gates open thanks to some members of squads Hydro and Dynamic. Move it, ladies! We've got a war to win! Jane roars and everyone starts moving fast and hard. The cannons are a bitch to get up the stairs, but with Axiom, will, and grit they get up there. She'd moved up from obscenely hard rocks to razor-sharp crystals and had gotten more than a few nasty nicks on him. His immaculate white fur was slowly being stained bluish-green in his own blood. Not that she hasn't been hurt. There are several lines of blood from where she's had to use her armor to staunch the flow from the brutal gashes his claws had dealt to her. She was smiling brightly even as blood seeped out from the natural cracks her armor has to allow her mobility even as she tries to both hammer and impale him with her crystal-coated fists. He exhales a gout of blistering hot flame. It doesn't do her harm, but it does block her sight as the roaring blocks her ears. The last time he melted to the side and she attacks in that direction, but he melts back instead before launching after her while she's slightly off balance to send a shattering shockwave against her armor. The armor cracks and he has a heartbeat that he takes advantage of to drive a knee into the weakened spot and impale her with the shards of her own armor. The blow hurts her but does little more than draw some blood before her armor detonates and hurls him backwards like a ragdoll. He rolls and rises back up again to find her crashing down onto him like an avalanche. He catches the initial blow and guides it upwards before snapping out his wings and following her into the sky. She slowly turns as she ascends. Her wide eyes are the only indication that she's off balance while off the ground, and then she instantly refocuses as she sees him coming like a meteor from below. He leads with an uppercut that folds her in half and she coughs. Why? You're too dangerous close to your own element. He answers and she grins even as she grabs his arm to tear at the skin and fur. He grunts and hurls her even higher up. She takes a good double handful of skin and fur with her. The last of the ballista debris is thrown over the side as they finish setting up the cannons. There are a few moments to range things out, and then a series of bangs as hell rains down towards the enemy army. In the distance, they can see a good quarter of it having gone to try and capture the hill cannons that are being turned towards them by the enemy. There's a moment of tension, then a cheer as the massive cannons backfire, their structural integrity compromised before being captured. "Surrender or die!" Jasper's voice bellows out from above like the voice of a god. "Your champion is beaten. Your fort is taken. You are at our mercy. Run up the flags. Let them know." Jane orders, and the banners and flags are taken down to be replaced with the black cloth flecked with white of the Star Seekers. But unlike most such banners, there is a symbol dead center. A T topping a U surrounded by a circle divided into 4 parts. The Undaunted. Jasper slowly lowers to the ground, the champion held in his left claw. Weapons are being dropped and hands raised at the sight of the beaten champion, and the cannons are not fired again. "Think it's over?" Jane asks, before a screech of rage can be heard from the main keep. "That's a no." "What the hell are you idiots doing? Fire on them!" Some screechy figure from the keep screams out at them. Jane is just confused for a moment before it dawns on her. "We're your enemies, you idiot. Your guards are dead, and these are our weapons on the wall." She shouts back at the noblewoman, and a large degree of heckling, including insults against the light element in general, mockery about her being an armchair general, being a dainty sot, and other sorts of fun. Jasper, for his part, does not land and instead flutters up in a manner that's almost akin to the Earthani he supposedly is. He doesn't touch the castle walls. "Any casualties?" "You're asking us? You look like you've been chewed up and spat out," Jane exclaims at the sight of him. He's covered in his own bluish-green blood and a fair smattering of his still-breathing opponents. She's out cold but not dead. "What are you doing with her?" "I had to knock the wind out of her, then stop her from getting any more to win. I could only do that when we were off the ground and she couldn't pummel me with mountains. Bitch fought hard. I respect that." "Did you know?" Terry asks slowly, glancing to the wall. "Oh, come on, your army's given up. I knocked you out fair and square. No shame in losing to me, I guarantee it." Jasper assures her, and she snorts before twisting a bit and then kicking off him to land on the wall. "Stand down!" Terry looks from side to side at the weapons being put away and regards him again. "Why?" "I need a little more than just why. Why didn't you kill me? You should have. I fought hard. I hurt you. I'm your enemy." "Do you know what an ultimate victory is?" Jasper asks as he flutters up and steps onto the wall beside her. "What?" "When what was your foe's becomes yours. You are a very skilled warrior. You are powerful. You are strong. I want you to be mine," Jasper says with a grin. "Oh? Are you proposing to her? Do you like getting your ass beaten bad?" Magrica asks, zooming in with a wide smile. "Oh, by the way, we win!" There's a scream of outrage from the keep. "We just need to let Screechy up there know it. Excuse me." "Proposing?" Terry asks slowly. "Never mind that," Jasper says as the screeching noblewoman is straight up assaulted by Magrica and then dragged through the air by 1 foot over towards them. Here's the bitch in charge. Isn't she a charmer? Magrika asks, tossing the woman at their feet. How dare you fight them, kill them. Your duty is to... I was beaten. I was beaten fair. If I attack again, I just lose again because they beat me. I need to get stronger before trying again, Terry says. Right now, smart thing to do is make use of the mercy they're giving so we don't die and we can get stronger and try and get out later. What? You coward! You utterly despicable wretch! If you think you can do better, I'm ready to fight. Jasper offers and she looks up at him, then flinches back at the second look of the blood-soaked Earthani warrior that towers over her like a mountain. Perhaps you'd like to surrender. She says, looking at the sword that Jasper managed to keep intact. It's still immaculate, but it's held by a very bloody, very large arm.